In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
Let's go back to Lamin Mane and ask, in situations like these, does government have a role? And if yes, what's that role and how should it play that role?
I think Imam already answered part of that question in supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Government is supposed to plan ahead. If they plan ahead and make sure that there's enough supply of sugar, dates, oil, and anything that we need in Ramadan, they should be able to stabilize the prices. But no, they won't, because they will tell you, oh, no, the market decides its own prices. We are a liberal economy. Liberal economy doesn't mean that you allow people to rip orders off.
Yeah, which I don't understand really, because, the price of bread is being controlled, isn't it?
Right.
The price of groundnuts is being controlled, isn't it?
Exactly.
So this, open economy, applies to certain things and not others?
Right. Particularly to certain people, not to others. It depends on who is importing and who is selling. You see, if you have what it takes to decide a policy for government and to implement it and to enforce it, you will be able to ensure those things. But if you have favors being dished out to people left, right, and center because they are close to you, because they are financing you, etc., you'll turn a blind eye to those things. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but just going back to this issue of demand and supply.
Yes.
Of course, the population distribution is not even throughout the country.
Yes.
You have areas where, you have huge populations. You have areas where you have, sparse, populations and all of that. So how will, government guarantees there's enough oil. They will just look at their figures and say, well, we have enough oil to last 3 months.
Yes.
At most, Ramadan would be 31 days.
Yes, 30 days.
It rarely gets to 31 even, So, 30 is the absolute, maximum, usually 28, 29. Yeah. But if in, densely populated areas, maybe, certain goods, are in such high demand, of course, traders will take advantage.
Yeah.
During the time maybe their stocks run low until when they restock. So how does government guard against such things? Because government is not directly doing business, let's not forget.
Yes, it is not. But it is supposed to regulate business. It is supposed to ensure that the people who are importing import in sufficient quantities over a certain period of time. This is the government that went out and said they gave tens of millions of dollars to some business people from the central bank, which is supposed to happen, to be able to import rice and other things. And when we ask them about it, they say, oh, don't just be happy you have rice. They are giving money to businessmen from the central bank to do business. If you go to that extreme, which you're supposed to do...
With a view to what?
They said to stabilize prices. And to ensure sufficient supply. If you're going to do that, you can demand of them to import enough to be able to supply the market. That is one thing you can do. Two, what a really inward-looking government should be doing is making sure that you develop those productions internally, and then you can have import substitution. What you need to import, we do not have to import rice in this country. We are sufficiently endowed by nature to be able to produce enough rice in this country and even export. One, we can produce sugar in this country if we have a proper agricultural policy. Senegal is producing lots of tons of sugar in Saint Louis area, you know, with the Mimran company. They are producing a lot of sugar in Senegal, and they are expanding. We can produce sugar in this country with the right policies. We are a small country, and we have vast arable lands. We can produce enough sugar that we need and even export more. We can do that. We can produce here anything that we consume. Oil is it's a scandal that we import oil in this country, and of poor quality. When we have lands to grow groundnuts, in the 70s, 80s, etc., we are producing.
I hear they will restart production of groundnut oil.
Yeah, we hear all of those things every now and then when we get close to elections. I don't believe it.
Oh,
you know, I mean, the number of things that are being promised by this government and which never see the light of day is. How many years has Barrow been promising us 150,000 jobs a year? Nothing has happened. They do these things. Next year's election, so they'll go to all of those things.
They say jobs have been created.
Yeah, by exporting our girls to go and work in Saudi Arabia.
Only they haven't captured, the stats, the statistics.
Yeah, right. What they are doing now is the thing they are creating is by exporting our young ladies to go work in Saudi Arabia for $200. The last time I was here, I said to you, I heard on the radio by somebody from the Ministry of Regional Integration, Trade and Employment that our young ladies are going to be exported, because I call exported to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states for $200 a month. I said, I hope the gentleman made a mistake, that is not true. And the minister was here a couple of weeks ago, and he said exactly the same thing.
Confirming $200.
$200. Yeah. Peter, that's $14,000. But then he says
that's straight $200, that's bankable $200.
That's an insult.
They're not going to use it to buy food. They're not going to use it to pay for housing. They're not going to use it for anything.
Yeah, except that they'll be working 14, 15 hours a day, and they'll be eating leftovers, etc. And in the meantime, if you have family here and if your wife, your mother, your daughter, or whatever gets sick, you have to send money to them.
Well, they've been told to report any abuse to the embassy.
This government, the embassy wouldn't be talking to them. If they had to talk to them, they wouldn't do anything about it. You see, there is a power struggle here. You think that the government of the Gambia can really intimidate or weigh heavily on the Saudi government or on the UAR government? It won't happen. It won't happen. Our people going there are going to... It is an insult to our people to send our young ladies to Saudi Arabia, to Kuwait, or whatever, any of those countries, to work for $200 a month. That's an insult.
Well, they're sitting here earning nothing, zero. That's the argument government would,
would
throw back at you.
And whose fault is that? This government is supposed to create employment for the people. If they cannot create employment, it's supposed to help the young people.
They will create 150,000 jobs in 5 years.
Exactly.
Give them 5 years.
They've been saying that for 9 years now. None of they think Gambians are fools that we cannot remember all of these things. They have been saying these things that never happens. You see, out of respect for the Gambian people, you should tell them the truth. You should not look at them and just lie in their face. I'm sorry to use that term, but to tell them something that's not true. You see, you cannot do that. You have to respect the people who voted for you and who are paying you so handsomely from their tax dollars rather. And you turn around and you take them for fools and do these things. It's not acceptable. Peter, a Gambian who is living here will at least be able to do something if the government supports them. If you cannot create employment and government cannot employ everybody, but government can offer possibilities of employment to other people. You give them a startup loan. You give them seed money. You give them something that's going to help them develop their own business. You are training young interns here in the business of broadcasting, IT, etc. When these people leave, they have a solid training from here, practical, on the job, hands-on training. If government were to put aside a fund, they can give these young people here a loan to start some business of their own in the IT sector.
Well, we can't all be businessmen and businesswomen.
No.
Who will buy
But
if we were all to sell?
No, we'll be selling different things. And we'll be doing different things. We'll be offering different services. Some will be producing rice, some will be producing coos, some will be producing cotton, some will be producing services in the IT sector, in the banking sector, in the construction sector. We produce different things and we sell different things. I need somebody to do plumbing for me, to do electricity works for me, to do internet connections, etc. All these are areas where we can have our youth develop themselves and create employment. If you give a farmer money to develop his farm and he sells the produce after taking his own consumption out of it, he's creating jobs for transporters who are going to be transporting it. He's creating jobs for people who are going to be in the milling industry, in the bagging industry, in the markets, etc. So he's creating jobs down the line. There's a value chain alongside with that. You help the lady who has a market garden somewhere to sink a borehole, and you have maybe 15, 20 ladies in a garden, in a garden which you fence off, and you sink a borehole for them. They will be producing enough to not only feed their families, they will supply the hotels in this country. The hotels are importing vegetables, poultry, meat, etc.
Government is aware of that. And one of the things the minister said about the bilateral labor agreement with Spain is that the young people who eventually will be going to Spain, hopefully, will be exposed to new farming techniques, pick up new skills, so that, because it's supposed to be a circular migration.
Yes.
At the end of their stint, they're expected to come back, and hopefully government would have, at least, if not initiate, supported, agricultural ventures that they can go now and continue working on and bringing this new knowledge, to develop, the agricultural sector here. I mean, that sounds like a plausible argument.
Yes, if you follow it through. But when those people come back...
They have plans. I don't think they would just say things and not follow up on them.
Really? That wouldn't be anything new. How many times have they promised things they never do? We have this program here which they call Techifi.
Yes.
They're training youths to into different businesses.
Has it not phased out? I think it's phased out.
It's phased out.
Yeah.
And it's failed abysmally.
Oh, dear.
When you train those youths, when they come out of there, the guy who did welding, the guy who did carpentry, you need to give him some startup funds, some seed fund to start his own business, his or her own business, to be able to work and sell and pay back that loan. And for that, you need structures and facilities that are going to support them. You ask a young person who is fresh out of those programs to go to a bank and secure a loan at 20% interest to start his business. It won't happen. Yeah. One, the bank will ask for collateral they don't have. Two, if they do and they give them the money, they will go bankrupt because the interest rate will kill the business. That's why a government is supposed to come in and have interest rate subsidization for the youth starting those businesses. Or you have youth banks or youth funding facilities. And you create wealth for this country. You give those youths loans at almost zero interest rate. And people tell you, oh, no, if you do that, you're going to fail. No, you're not going to fail. If you give a young guy starting a business, you give him $100,000 to start a business at 0% interest. When that person develops that business, he or she will recruit 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Those people are going to pay taxes. And that tax is going to go to who? Government. So you widen the tax base. You get more money. You don't have to raise our taxes to a level that's killing us and making us all bankrupt and go poor. We're taxing the Gambians into poverty. But if you widen the tax base by allowing those people to create jobs for the Gambians, more people will be paying tax, so you have a wider tax base and more money coming into taxes, and that's good for the government. So what you lose in interest rates, you make up for in taxes and in job creation. And that's what the government... See, development is a holistic package. And this government doesn't seem to be able to do that. They just do things haphazardly in any sector. Just take something as simple as road construction. Look at the Battle Harding Highway. After all the money they pumped into it, they are breaking and adding, etc., because it was not thought through.
A new phase is being inaugurated
Exactly.
by the president on
$54 million. After spending $150 million in it, you put another $54 million. That's $204 million to do a 22-kilometer stretch of road.
It's not worth it?
That is a world record by any standard. Peter, is $1 million rule of the thumb to do 1 kilometer of road. 22 kilometers should have been $22 million. And you telling us you're putting $204 million into that's $9.7, $9.8 million per kilometer.
So by your estimation, this road should have extended right through to Basse, perhaps?
With $204 million,
yeah,
you keep the road that Jammeh built and which improved on what Jawara put in place.
Yes.
You can build another dual carriage, another 2 lanes.
Carriageway, yes.
Alongside the one that is already there. You build another 2 lanes. With $204 million, you can build a road at least to Bansang. So you have a dual carriageway, 2 lanes on either side, from Banjul to Bansang at least.
Oh, wow.
And it probably will go to Basse.
Wow.
Because you know what? Because the material you need for that road construction is available all along those roads. You'll have gravel all along. This Battle Harding Highway, there was no gravel. It was all backfill. I keep saying this, give it 5 years. The maintenance costs we're going to have to incur on these roads are going to be huge because there is no proper road surfacing. So I'm basing. So the road is plus going to have start sagging in particular areas, particularly with the rains, with the heavy-duty vehicles plying the roads. You will have it. And even before you finish constructing, you're breaking and building.
As is happening to the Westfield to Sukuta stretch.
Exactly.
Which is very unfortunate. Time is fast, running out on us. We must talk politics.
Yeah.
Your Assistant Administrative Secretary, external for UDP, and of course, we keep hammering at this thing, diaspora vote.
Yes.
How are you working with, your loyalists in the diaspora to make sure that this happens? What is the UDP doing about, this disenfranchisement of Gambians in the diaspora? We want their money, but we are keeping them out of decision making.
Right. UDP is trying to get the government to start with to ensure that the court decision by the Supreme Court, which says that the diaspora is entitled to vote and should vote, to make sure that government implements that decision. The IEC should go ahead and do that. The Inter-Party Committee is going to be working on it probably soon to get something done. If it doesn't, UDP might even consider going back to court to have the court reissue an order to government to do this. Peter, this is a section of the population which, by government's own admission, last year contributed $776 million.
Yes, 775.6, which is $776
million to this economy.
Yeah.
Yet, you do not allow them to do something as simple as vote. You disenfranchise them. And that 776 million is what comes through official sources. When you look at what comes in through the unofficial sources, we're looking at over $1 billion by this section of the population.
Easily, yes.
Which is way beyond what we earn or what we receive in overseas development assistance, in all sorts of assistance coming from abroad. It's way beyond that. These people provide for us more than any section of the international community does for the Gambia. They are keeping the Gambia afloat. Mm-hmm. And you cannot even have the decency of allowing them to vote. And you go for excuses. Last time, what was it? Oh, the time was too short. We don't have enough money. We can't do it. Yet you give over $300 million to IEC, which ends up in the accounts of IEC members, commissioners, to be used God knows how. With that, you can organize the elections and do the voting preparations for the diaspora.
Yeah, but when will you go to court? Because you don't seem to have much time. It's already 2025.
Yes.
You're going through Ramadan, so very soon you lose a whole month of March. You come out of that, Gambians, they are slow to warm to action. Maybe by the time things start happening again, it's after April, May, then the rains come.
But already there are some people who didn't wait for the political parties in civil society who are already, I think, in court or about to go to court.
Okay. Okay.
So this is going
you
to
mentioned
happen.
the IEC.
Yes.
The chairman has to leave office next month.
Yes, in principle.
Well, what about the leadership now?
The leadership, that is the thing, because
the president
right,
has the authority to pick the next IEC chairman.
Exactly.
It could be you.
Certainly not. Certainly not. I am their nightmare to start with, and Barrow would never think of putting somebody in that place that is going to organize free and fair elections. And I am trying to organize free and fair elections at the level of the UDP, so they know that they would never make it happen for me.
Okay.
But
because we're hearing rumors.
Yes, we know. We're hearing a lot of rumors and
names.
And when those names come up, some of them will be blatantly disqualified to hold that position, and we will all stand up and make sure that those people don't get it, like it happened in the recent past when he appointed somebody, and people stood up and said, that's going to happen. Elections in this country are supposed to be free, fair, and transparent. But Barrow wants everything except free, fair, and transparent elections because he knows he's going to lose.
All reports on elections in this country have passed them off as free and fair, whether it's the EU or AU.
No. The EU did come with the election observers, and they were held recently, end of last year. And I was in the meetings with them and other people. The EU election observer mission, which came in 2021, came back in early 2022
and said what?
With a set of 20 recommendations, which they asked the IEC and government to implement because they thought those elections could have been more transparent. One. They asked them also.
Could have been only more transparent.
They asked them also.
Transparent, yes, but could have been more transparent.
No, exactly. They also asked them to produce the results of the polling stations, polling station by polling station, so that we see what is there up to date. They have refused to do it because if they do, their fraud will become too apparent. They didn't do it. You see,
and this was what UDP wanted to prove in court. Unfortunately,
yes, which we had in our election petition, and we went there, but the court threw it out. But Peter, what comes out of the polling stations, is what's supposed to be proclaimed, and that's this what
the IEC would say that's what they proclaimed,
which is not right, which is not the case. It's not true. This is why we went to court. Why, if that was the case, why didn't they publish it? 4 years down the line, they have refused to publish those results. Because when those results get moved to the collation centers for aggregation, that's where they play with the results. These people had their results prefabricated. And what they did was just to validate that. I was sitting, I keep saying, I was sitting in Hussein Dabo's office. We had an election command center there. And we were monitoring the election results. They were coming and we were winning and winning big until about 10:30, and they stopped coming. And we knew something foul was happening. And that's what happened. And they waited till the following day to publish those results after they had doctored them. And we said, this time round,
where were your agents at the different polling stations?
Yes, that is one of the problems. Some of our agents just disappeared.
Oh.
Some of them were bought off. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. Some of them were bought off.
So Peter is there to represent the UDP.
Peter gets offered $1,000 or so, and he just disappears with the results.
Just $8,000, eh?
I don't know the amount, but they were offered money. And they disappeared. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to tell it as it is. And this is one of the things that happened.
So you'll be more careful this time in choosing your agents.
Oh, yes. You'll see it starting with the Masembe elections on Saturday.
What's going on down there? Because apparently every
every
UDP bigwig is there. I mean, Talib was there. I mean, they sent me video.
I'm going there today.
Ah, you say?
I'm going there today.
How big is Masembe?
Masembe is a test case.
Oh, okay.
For 2026.
Only for local government.
You know what?
Yeah.
They have been saying, we're going to beat them there. We're going to make sure that tell the whole world that their election results monitoring system is not going to work. We're going to do it, and we're going to show them.
So Masembe is a litmus test.
It's a litmus test for the 2026 elections. That's why everybody in NPP except Barrow even was planning to go there. And somehow they dissuaded him, I think.
He could still go there. The election hasn't happened yet.
And we can't wait to have him there. You see, the elections in Masembe...
If you were to go, would Dabo go?
Dabo would not go. Dabo has enough people he trusts on the ground who are going to be there to campaign for this. Dabo does not need to go to that.
I think I should go to Masembe.
Sorry?
I think I should go to Masembe. Just to savor the atmosphere.
You should. We are going there today again. Okay? And we're going to we'll sit put. you know.
And there were allegations that, your candidate was offered money and a visa to Canada.
He was offered money.
All that was made up, wasn't it?
No, his mother went on air to say what happened. They went to see the mother. They offered her money, a ticket to Mecca and all that stuff to make him withdraw like Sirinjai did for our candidate in Nyanija, you remember? The by-election that happened in Nyanija, they went to guy and the guy withdrew just 2 days or so before the election. Couldn't have a candidate to replace him. And that guy also went on air recently to say, well, they pressured his father, because him and the guy who ran for NPP were the same family. They pressured the father to make him withdraw his son, and they promised him a ticket to Mecca and $500,000 and whatnot. And he reluctantly withdrew because his father, out of respect for his father. And now he's regretted because nothing they promised them ever happened. Why did you expect these people to ever hold a promise? They never hold their promise to anybody. But they tried to do the same thing with this guy, Bakari Jaju in Masembe. The mom threw them out. The mom told them, I'm going to record this and I'm going to talk about it. They said, yeah, okay, but you probably shouldn't do that. And she went out and said what they proposed to her. And they did the same thing to the son. They told him they're going to give a visa to Canada as if they are the Canadian embassy.
Well, I mean, government is very powerful. I mean, they can send him on some,
just by saying that, the Canadian embassy probably will refuse just because they said that, okay? Because the Canadian embassy is not a branch of the Gambia government. They are not surrogates for this government.
Yeah, they're not even a branch of the Canadian government. They're a totally independent entity.
Yeah. So what is what I'm saying, Peter? The bottom line is this country is mired in corruption. And that is what is killing us. And they think that they can buy every Gambian. They tell you, everybody has a price. The number of times people in UDP have been approached and offered money to move to NPP. A number of people have moved.
Yes, they have.
But the vast majority have stayed put because they have integrity. And they love this country.
How much would it take to move you to NPP?
They don't have enough money in the central bank to make me move. My integrity is not for sale, Peter, if I were to work for this government, they wouldn't pay me anything more than what I have already. My retirement pension, I'm not boasting. What I'm saying, my retirement pension is more than what this government can pay me for any job in this government. And I don't want the money. What I want is to give back to this country. I am today what I am because this country made me that. This country put me through school here. The best one, Gambia.
No, that's not far from it.
And then we ended up in university and everything. Scholarships negotiated by the Gambia government. What I am today, I owe to this government.
Absolutely.
Not to this government, to this country.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to give back.
And just, still on this issue of elections and, chances, I hosted a guy here called Tuba Mare, a data scientist, data analyst.
Yes.
And what he said must have been painful to people like yourself, that
the
UDP's support base has never been bigger than even 35%.
I will tell you, when I heard that, I was out of the country. When I came back, I tried to call him. He had already left. I sent him a message. I knew this gentleman for over 2 years. We even worked with him at one point. I worked with him on our election monitoring software when we were trying to develop that. I gave him part of the work to see how we can work with him. And the election results, when we were trying to reprogram them and compile them, I worked with this gentleman. So I was disappointed when I heard him say those things. And I take it for youthful exuberance. If he said
he was just stating the fact.
If it were somebody else, I would have said that he was auditioning for a position in the borough government. But I knew him. So I wrote to him and said, I am disappointed by what you said because you know that statistics cannot be interpreted outside their context. And he wrote back an email to me, a WhatsApp message, which was very reassuring. And
how? That he made a mistake?
No, that he has a lot of respect for me and what we're doing and all that we do. And actually what I said to him in that message is true. Peter, election results that he went by are the election results that were doctored by the IEC and the Jammeh government in the past. These were results where we had Jammeh government having 300,000 votes sitting there for him regularly, which was being pumped into the system every time. And of course, that will make sure that he wins every election. So if you go by those results, of course, you are looking at wrong statistics. Statistics depends on the context. Data is interpreted in the context in which they are provided and in which they are mined. And Tuba should have known that. But he went ahead and said all the wrong things because, as I said to him,
how damaging was that, what he said then? I mean, if it's not founded on, reliable stats and he comes up with, figures like that, I mean, people who probably...
I wouldn't have talked about this because he's a young man I worked with and who we tried to groom. And I wouldn't have said this because out of respect for him and protecting him because we tried to mentor him, I wouldn't have said this. But for the fact that it conveys a wrong message to people, I wouldn't have said this. But he was saying that the UDP base is shrinking, which is totally opposite of the reality. Barrow did not win the 2021 elections.
He did not? He won?
He did not. IEC declared the results for him. Barrow and the IEC doctored those results to win. 2016, he won. And he won because Jammeh's 300,000 votes, which he was using, was taken out of the system when they burned their headquarters. That's why Barrow did not win. Jammeh didn't win. 2016, he won. 2021, he did not win. After the results, it was like the country was in mourning. The whole of the country just went quiet. Even his inauguration, which is supposed to have been held at 10 o'clock, they held at 4 p.m. because they could not fill up the stadium.
Oh.
Some of the heads of state left before the inauguration. Nobody was going out.
Well, it was only the Guinea-Bissau head of state.
He left, yes, but the others were about to leave. That's why they eventually held it at 4 p.m.
And the Guinea-Bissau head of state, we were told, left because, there were rumors of a coup in the making in his country. So that was good reason to leave.
That was the excuse, They will say those sort of things.
Are you saying, as DA said yesterday, that he was bored?
Not bored, they were angry. You don't keep a head of state sitting in the stadium from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's disrespect for them. They have other things to do. But these consistently do that because these people can't get anything right. The last independence election, 2 days ago, they were supposed to start at, I think, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. I was there.
Oh, okay,
I made the complaint yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I was in the stadium by 8:44.
Okay.
When ministers,
VIPs,
they were already there. Yeah. I mean, when I was entering the stadium was about 55 to 60% full, which I thought, was a decent crowd, for, the ceremonies to begin dead on 9 o'clock. But time management is our problem in this country.
It's a huge problem with this government. But then again, even look at that event. The figures we're hearing is about $150 million to organize that.
Not just for that event. I think for the whole celebration.
For the celebration.
And they're saying it's a whole year round celebration.
That's not true. It's just for these past couple of days. The banquet and the thing at the stadium.
$150
million.
We must demand, change back, as they say.
Yeah, and they would never give you that. They would ask you more. They wouldn't give you wage. That's what they do. Peter, at the time when the country is in such a mess, do we need to spend $150 million to go celebrate? We should be organizing introspection. You can organize. The country commemorating our independence is okay. You could have a cocktail, a small cocktail, with a few people, and have a sober march past on the day. We don't need to spend all of that money. The $150 million we have much better use for that. Absolutely. If we're really going to be considerate to this.
And finally, on a note I took up with the Minister of Information some time ago, and he flatly denied it. This is an expansionary government, getting bigger and bigger. Just recently, they boasted about planning to open 3 new embassies in the West, in Europe.
Yeah. Peter,
that's not a slimming government.
No. This government has never been about slimming. This government has always been about taking care of a few people and giving them the most they can and taking care of themselves at the expense of the Gambian taxpayer, the Gambian people. We are being taxed into poverty to be able to finance their exorbitant and extravagant lifestyles. Why do we need to open 3 more embassies? Why do we need to give the Ministry of Foreign Affairs almost $2 billion to go embarrass us every now and then?
Embarrass us how?
What's happening in these embassies when they fight over women, when they fight over all sorts of silly things?
Well, they've managed to stop that. At least we've
For the moment.
Yeah, we've gone a few months without any scandal, erupting from any of the.
We do not need those embassies being opened at a time when we are struggling for resources. This government has to look at its spending patterns. You see, in a short while, we're going to be hit by austerity in this country, because we can't afford it. They are finding it difficult to pay people's salaries in this country.
Oh, no, they can't. They just increase salaries. How can they find it difficult to pay them already?
Exactly.
I'm asking you, they can't. I mean,
they are finding it difficult to pay salaries in certain areas. Peter, the money is not going where it's supposed to go. When you vote a budget, and Parliament has to be blamed for that too. When you vote a budget, it is supposed to go to a certain area that Parliament has designated and allocated the money to. They take that money and they go to environments and move them from those sectors to other sectors to finance their lobbies. This should not happen.
But surely a UDP government would use environments.
Environments
They say it's part of governing.
No, environment should be an exception. Environment should be an exception, not the rule. Environments are a violation of Parliament's authority. This is a co-equal branch of government. And Parliament is the one who decides how the money is spent in the name of the people. So when they allocate those resources, they're supposed to spend in those areas. Environment should be an exception. You could have a case where you have a natural disaster somewhere and you need to move money to cater for that. Environments could be organized for those sort of things. But environment should not be organized because the president is doing a wasteful tour in the country and you move money from certain areas.
There's money for that. 45 million has been set aside for that.
This year, yes.
If you're talking about the meet the farmers or meet the people or national dialogue tour.
Meet the NPP people out there. Well. So last year, they gave him $30 million. By end of September, he had spent 45 million, 15 million more, 50% more to environments. That's just end of September. That was before the last tour of November, December. So by the time by the end of the year, they must have spent at least $60 million from 30. And that has been the case all along. Peter, our problem is corruption in this country. That is what is killing us. Just give me a minute on that. If you look at the audit reports from 2017 to 2019, $11 billion went missing. $11 billion went missing. Why is the government not doing something about that? And today he turns around and tells you, oh, I'm going to fight corruption. Yeah, right. You want to fight corruption? Start with those $11 billion that went missing. Start from bringing back the $35 million that was given to your wife. Bring that back. Start putting an end to all the corruption that is happening in all the ministries. Put an end to security port, which is killing our tourist sector.
Oh, they just reminded everybody that, that $1,000 has to be paid.
Exactly.
Or $20.
$20 and just $2,000. Yeah. That goes to who? Yeah. To security port. Why? They're doing nothing and giving 50% of the income from that. For what? They do the same thing for the ports. They're killing our port. When you've had your things shipped to the Gambia, you can go online and track your cargo coming here.
Things are supposed to be getting better now with Alport Banjul replacing GPA Banjul Seaport.
Don't get me started on that.
Well, we don't even have time. So
Peter, that is the most scandalous thing. We built our port from scratch using our tax dollars. And then you ask Al-Barak to come in and manage that port after you give them concession to build a port where you get only 20% of the revenue and you give them for 30 years. And in addition to that, you throw in the Banjul port as a sweetener. A port we built, you give it to them and tell them, work the port and give us 20% of the revenue. What are they putting in there?
But we're struggling. Ships are coming and they cannot dock and offload their stuff. People are saying that's why we are paying.
And Gambians are not competent enough to do that? Because you have an incompetent government and a corrupt government that is not doing it. That's why it's happening. If you get rid of Ibrahim Usman Jobat and put in some more competent people to do that job, if these people gave $4 billion.
So for you, the problem is Usman Jobate. Getting rid of Usman Jobate would
He's
solve the
head, but there are other people there who are supposed to go with. Last year, they gave $4 billion, $4 billion, not million, $4 billion in tax exemptions at the port. $4 billion is what can we do with that in this country?
Well, I didn't benefit from,
Exactly.
any of those exemptions.
Exactly.
Lami,
And the amount of money that disappeared down the...
thanks for coming. All right. And you're off to Masembe?
I'm off to Masembe.
For how many days?
At least 3 days.
At least 3 days.
And we're going to make sure that we beat them their hands down and show them that this is the prelude to 2026 when they'll be beaten hands down and no more cheating in this country. Nobody is going to rig these elections again. Nobody is going to steal us out of our victory again. 2026 Paro will be history. And what is happening in Senegal will happen to them.
We shall see. Lamin Mane of the UDP. Tomorrow, we have Madike Fall. On Monday, we have Dr. Ismaila Sise. On Tuesday, we have Imam Babali. On Wednesday, we have Most Reverend Bishop Bani Manga of the Methodist Church. We'll give you more details about Thursday and Friday.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.